the same questions that everybody asks because I know that's, probably not that appealing. So what I'm going to do is I've written down a few questions, but I just want to, so I'll get this going. And I'll try to ask you questions that not everybody in the world has asked you. So today, it's February the 15th?
Yes.
Yes. So you're 13 years old, and all the 13-year-olds I know are in school, and they're being taught by their teachers. And today you're here in Montreal, and you travel around the world giving speeches about literacy and reading. And you're walking into this room today full of 600 teachers in Montreal, and you're going to be teaching them. What do you think sets you apart, Dora, from all the other 13-year-olds who obviously don't do what you do and don't live the kind of life you live?
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with both opportunity and also a real desire to go out there and travel and things that I truly enjoy. But I think definitely it really started with the opportunity I had from a very young age to be able to publish books and such. But in other things, I really think that there's not that much that sets me apart from other 13-year-olds, because I think that, and the message I want the teachers here to walk away with is that really you can learn from every one of your students, whether they're at the top of their class or whether they're maybe a struggling student. It really doesn't matter. You can learn from really most people who come in contact with them, and a lot of times you think that just adults teach and only children learn, but I'd really like to reverse that mindset.
Okay. Do you think with the advent of the digital age and technology in the classroom, where you have instances where young children are coming into the classroom and perhaps knowing more sometimes on some issues than their teachers, do you think teachers are going to be more receptive to embracing this new aspect of learning that they're going to have to? I mean, what do you think about that?
I'm really hoping that teachers are open to learning persons on this, because I know that there are some teachers who are just really scared of technology, won't touch it, will put tape around it and say, here's where you don't cross over the line, you don't touch it here. But I think that it's very important for teachers to be open to the fact that really technology is saying a lot of times students, we might, even if we don't necessarily know about the technology or we don't know sign, we have that mindset, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
And so definitely having students being able to teach their teachers in that aspect, it's not only good from a technology standpoint, it's like I've solved this problem, it's also good from the standpoint of changing the teacher's mindset.
Okay. What do the teachers say to you in general after you speak to them? What kind of reaction do you get?
Generally, it's a really positive reaction. I mean,
people
with negative things to say probably wouldn't come up to me.
Okay.
Which I realize, I have to take that into account. But the fact is, definitely I have heard a lot of positive reception of a lot of people. I've gotten some standing ovations, and that's been really wonderful for me. So, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the teachers come to these conferences. They really want to learn. They're really open to learning. So the audience definitely really makes a difference.
Okay. And Adora, how long have you been doing this now, this traveling around the world giving speeches?
I've been doing it, on varying levels since I was 7. When I was 7, I really started, it was more on a local level, traveling to schools. And if I was in another state, it would be a thing of where we would contact a school and say, Adora's in town.
Okay.
But more recently, after I spoke at the TED conference, then it just, there was places all over the world who were just requesting me to come and speak. So it's definitely picked up quite a bit.
So you've accumulated your air miles, you've traveled. Where have you traveled? Give me some indications.
Yes. And unfortunately, even though I have traveled a lot, we never fly the same airline, so But as far as countries I've traveled to, well, Canada, I've been here many times, but also more recently I went to Mexico. My family also went to Europe, so as far as European countries, I've been to England, France, Italy, Switzerland, Monaco, kind of.
And you've been to the Far East?
Yes, I've been to China and Vietnam, and so, yes, those.
And when you go to these countries, primarily are you addressing students or educators?
Actually, I would say more recently, mostly educators, a lot of adult audiences. But when I was in Europe for my first trip there, it was mostly just students. I spoke to a lot of primary schools.
And when you're back home in Washington, could you give me just sort of a broad idea of what would a regular day constitute for you in Washington when you're at home? Are you still homeschooled, or do you go to school now? I
actually go to an online public school. And then that allows me the chance to continue my education while I'm traveling. So while I'm at home, probably I wake up in the morning, eat breakfast, and one of the nice things about going to an online school is that I get to wake up relatively late. So I'm quite relaxed generally, I try to write a short story. I usually, have time when I need to, whether it's a blog post or respond to emails that I try to finish first, and then I do my schoolwork, take care of that. But a lot of times I'll also have a video conference with some students, so I might go downstairs to my basement where I have a
studio or
yes,
video conference room.
A studio, and then conference with the students and present on topics like personal marriage or whatever the topic is.
Okay, and these are schools, sort of, they could be schools anywhere.
Yeah, and actually I've had a few video conferences with schools in Alberta and Quebec. So
oh, have you? Okay, very good.
it's nice to be able to really reach all over the world.
Right. Okay. And when you would come to a conference like this in Montreal, would they have solicited you, or do you put out feelers? Kind of, obviously you're well known now. I mean, this particular one today in Montreal, do you know, did they contact you? Did they ask you to come?
Yes,
Okay.
and that's the way a lot of times it works, is that a conference will ask me to come. Sometimes if there's a conference taking place nearby or if it's very prestigious and I really like to speak there, then I might request it. But generally now, because of speaking at TED and everything,
Right.
we've gotten a lot of requests.
Okay, okay. And Adora, in terms of reading, I know that's a very, very big part of the work you do, promoting reading and literacy. And I have a boy who's 10, who's a pretty good reader, who just finished The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan, so that's pretty good for his age. But him and all his friends are so motivated by the computer and video games. Does that disturb you a little bit when you see how difficult it is? I mean, do you find it difficult to try to persuade children that there is a lot to learn by reading and becoming literate?
Yeah, I think that I have to, in some ways I have to look at my approach as that the computer can be a help when it comes to getting kids to read, because a lot of times, and this is something I tell students, is that reading is what you do when you read a blog, reading is what you do when you read the news or something like that, even on your computer. But I do really highly encourage kids to pick up fictional books, non-fiction books as well, because by really having this wide scope of what we read and how we read it, I think that we can become literate in many different ways.
Okay, okay. And what would be some of your favorite topics to read, genres? What do you like to read?
I love historical fiction, fantasy. I like reading biographies of people I'm interested in and memoirs and stuff. I've actually become interested in that recently.
Is there anybody in particular recently that you've read?
Yes, well actually the reason I started reading memoirs is because I got them as Christmas gifts from my mom.
Okay.
And I would get her a couple books, and while she was reading one, I would give her another. So I read like Julie Andrews' memoir,
very good.
Which was really interesting, and also Condoleezza Rice, and a few others.
Okay. And do you ever get tired of this hectic pace of darting all around the world, giving conferences?
The travel can be a little bit, generally, when I'm doing like from city to city, and all in at the same time, and it's a big chunk of time, that can be a little bit long to be away from home and calling my family up and updating them where we are. But overall, I think that it's really very rewarding because I get to learn so much and see all kinds of different weather.
Right, different weather. Yeah. And do you ever look ahead and wonder what you'll be doing, let's say in 10 years or 20 years? I mean, do you have a goal down the road, or is this something that you've embraced and that you would like to continue for the foreseeable future and into your life as an adult?
Well, I'd really love to continue my work in the education, writing areas. I'm also really interested in journalism, news, government, all those areas.
Don't get into journalism because we're sinking quickly in these daily journalism.
Well, I guess it really depends on what the world is like in 10 years, but I think I'll definitely continue writing in education, those fields for sure.
Okay, and I mean, obviously people who hear about your story, the first question they ask is, well, what kind of life does this girl have outside of this aspect of it? I mean, do you have friends, do you have hobbies, do you go over to your friends' houses, do you have people coming to your house? What do you do in terms of fun? Or is reading and all that your entertainment?
I do a lot of that because I'm traveling so much, and I don't go to a school every day. Then I don't have that daily face-to-face interaction. But I do have a lot of friends who I'll visit, who I email with, chat online, and on Facebook. So and I interact with a lot of different ways with my friends. So that, and as well as in person, and that allows me to still keep in touch while I'm traveling.
Okay. And Adora, when did you realize yourself that you had a gift for being able to read at such a young age? I mean, did you just pick up a book one day? How did it start?
Well, to me,
remember, or did Mom tell you what happened? Maybe it happened, before you had developed the memories of it.
Well, I think I was about 3.5, and yeah, I sort of remember. I remember that I loved reading like these bug inspector books because they had lots of pictures and the font was relatively large. So I had that. I was like, but I didn't really see anything special about it because at that young age you really don't have that sort of comparative instinct. You don't say, well, I'm reading a 3.5, but this person learned. You don't really do that. So I wouldn't have really realized that it was early, and there's quite a few kids out there who are around that age. So I think that even now I wouldn't say necessarily that I'm really gifted, but I think that it's just a lot of opportunity, and I try to work hard. So.
Okay. And with regards to your mother, I mean, did your mother encourage you to kind of take on this business aspect of your life, or is that something that you wanted to pursue?
Well, as far as like, I think it was sort of a natural because I really wanted to publish books, and obviously you have to sell books in order to get the national market. So, and I always loved that. Seeing book sales coming in and even like packaging them up to send out. So it was definitely very nice to have that. I wouldn't say that I've ever really pursued a business aspect in a major way. My goal has always been to just have contact and reach out to more people.
Okay, and I guess clearly with all this work you have no stage fright.
No, I have a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of stage fright, but it's, I'll get a little bit nervous beforehand.
Okay. And could you just tell me a little bit about the speech you're going to be talking about today? What are you going to touch on today?
Sure, well it's called Practice Like You Can, and it's all about what educators can learn from their students. It's meant to be humorous, and I'm hoping I won't offend too many people, but it's generally, and it's meant to be fairly lighthearted, but it is this aspect of, you can learn from your students. You're not the only teacher in the room that I'm trying to convey, as well as a message about technology, which we've heard, really echo throughout this conference.
Okay. That's great. So Joyce, can I just ask you a couple of questions? You can give Adora the camera.